get started, and I'll just keep admitting people as we go. Kia ora and welcome. It is awesome to have you here online in this masterclass, Pathways to Leadership, presented by Courtney Nimmo. I'm not going to introduce Courtney because a lot of her talk today is about her journey and how she got to where she is. A little bit about myself and Meet Business Women. I'm Abigail Delaney, the chair of the New Zealand arm. Meet Business Women is a global network for women working across the red meat industry. We provide in-person networking opportunities, and we recently had one in Christchurch, and we're hoping to get out in the regions more, so hopefully I get to see you in person. We also provide online masterclasses like this, and we're really keen to hear your feedback and ideas for other speakers and topics, so please get in touch. We also have a global mentorship program where you're connected to a mentor across the globe, and we track gender representation in the industry in New Zealand and globally. Our next gender report is out next year, so I'm really looking forward to it. This one is actually including ethnic data as well, so I'm quite excited about that. A big thanks to our New Zealand's territory partners. They are Beef and Lamb New Zealand Limited, Beef and Lamb New Zealand Incorporated, and the Meat Industry Association. We offer individual and corporate memberships, and I'd really encourage you to talk to your manager and your team and the women in your organization to see if you could do something to make it a part of your personal development plan. Awesome. And now, without further ado, I'll hand over to Courtney, who is just in the room. She's got her camera on. Off to you, Courtney.
Perfect. Is that all good? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. So thank you guys for coming. I think when Abby asked me to do this, I was a little bit like, what, me? Like, I'm so on my leadership journey, and I guess one thing I've learned from preparing for this is like, you're actually never there. Like, it's just something that keeps evolving. So what I was going to do was tell you a little bit about my journey, and then we'll open for questions at the end. But if you have anything that pops out throughout, pop it in the chat so we can keep track of it, and we can talk about it at the end. I really want to make sure that this is valuable for you guys. So if there's another track or something, just pop it in the chat and we can address it then. So yeah, as Abby said, haven't done a bio because essentially this whole thing is my bio. So I live in South Otago, which is 10 minutes south of Clinton, on a beef and grain farmer with my partner Sam. I also work for Balance Agri-Nutrients as the regional sales manager for the Lower South Island. And here I work with an amazing team of 9 nutrient specialists who are super passionate about helping our food producers. And most recently is my appointment as the Associate Director for Beef and Lamb New Zealand, which began in October last year. So that's sort of the thing that just sums me up as right now. But as part of this, thought I'd go way back. So I grew up on a farm in West Otago. And then when I was 10 years old, I was ripped away from the farm, and my family moved to Mosgiel, which is just out of Dunedin, and I started my new life as a townie. And the reason I'm mentioning this is this was a key moment for me in many reasons, and I truly believe it played a massive part in my leadership journey. So having to be adaptable at that young age, start all over, make new friends, build a new tribe, as many of you will have had to do as well. But also being able to see the world from 2 really different views. So having my rural lens and having my townie lens. And I think appreciating those different views has now become one of my biggest strengths as a leader. I'm willing to be educated about different views, and I'm always genuinely curious about things, especially, particularly if I don't agree with something. So in the back of my mind, I was always going to end up on a farm. I just didn't know how. Meeting a farmer wasn't necessarily the main strategy, but that's what's happened. So during high school, I fell deeply in love with classical studies. And I thought I could go all over the world teaching classical studies as a teacher. And a year into my degree at Otago University, a lecturer pulled me aside and he kindly told me, like, sweetheart, there is no career in this. It's been phased out of schools. And like my heart was broken and I was back to square one. And square one had me reflect on what I liked about what I was doing around university at that time. And at that time I was working directly with farmers and rural professionals at a cooperative called CRT, which is now part of Farmlands. And I did some research and I talked directly to people I trusted about what they were doing. And it became really clear to me that I wanted to go down this path. And so I went and did a Bachelor of Agri-Commerce at Massey extramurally while I continued to work at CRT. I think the reason I'm saying this to you is that you don't have to always know where you're going, but as long as you're open to new and different opportunities and just keep doing more of what you like every day, I genuinely think you'll end up finding what is your passion, and then your journey will become clearer. I guess at least that's what happened to me. And I think there's so much pressure on us right from the minute we get to high school to have a path and know where you're going. And I think that puts a lot of people off leadership journeys and developing themselves because they don't have that, right, I'm going to do this when I'm 30, I'm going to do this when I'm 40. And I just think it's really putting people off, and I just don't think you need it. So during my degree, it became clear that my passion was helping farmers achieve their goals. I loved problem solving on farm with farmers, and I got a real kick out of making people's lives a bit easier. So after uni, I went for a couple of roles, and of the ones I got offered, I chose Balance because even 10 years ago, Balance's culture aligned with me to a T. People first, sustainability champions, and of course, you might be seeing a theme. It was another cooperative. So during the next few years at Balance, I really gave my everything to my portfolio of clients. I'm naturally a people pleaser, and so this role as a nutrient specialist was perfect for me. A few years into my nutrient specialist role, an opportunity popped up to be involved in a development program for sheep and beef. And this is where things like rapidly changed for me. Helping farmers achieve their goals was like a drug. Every time I saw them smile because they had feed in front of them, or every time I got a call out of the blue saying they've never seen their lambs look like that, like just getting the calls from people appreciating me just doing my job was like the biggest buzz. And my passion for the sector must have been quite obvious because I started to be asked to do sessions. There was one I did with about 70 people, and that was a real turning point for me. I realized I could, as a nutrient specialist, and I loved my role, I could help 250 people, right? That was all the capacity I had to do. And I kind of clicked that in that room, coaching 70 people, that they could each help 250 people. And it was like this epiphany, and that's really where my leadership journey began. So during all of this time, I've had a range of managers, all bringing something different to my journey. I had ones who saw me as a great fit where I was, and that was cool. They saw me as just like a great fit where I was. And then I had others who saw what I could be. And those managers are the ones who really pushed me to see my potential and helped me to see opportunities, whether it be courses or mentoring. And this is where the concept of having a strong tribe started for me. I realized like I'd always had people around me who, were supportive, but all of a sudden I had these people around me who would like challenge me and push me and believe in me and really wanted me to succeed. So that was where I started to understand this concept of a tribe. So for the next couple of years, I had a chock-a-block development program with Balance, and I did so many courses, so many programs internally and externally. And to be honest, it was too many in hindsight. However, all of that helped me narrow down what I enjoyed about leadership, and it gave me the tools and experience to take that next step into people leadership. So alongside the development courses, I moved from a core nutrient specialist to a key and corporate nutrient specialist. And the reason I'm sort of sharing this part is that I didn't have a huge interest in becoming a corporate, in a corporate facing role, but I knew that that role would give me exposure to some areas, particularly financial acumen, that different type of relationship. And because I knew it didn't align for me long term, but I was really open with the hiring manager at the time, and I said to him, like, I didn't see myself in this role for a long time, but I would give it my all for 2 years. And he appreciated my honesty and was like, if it's only 2 years, we'll take you for 2 years. So I think there was a good lesson in there of just being like, I wanted to do this role to give me these couple of skills, but it wasn't going to be my career. So one thing I think is probably a good time to get into is, and I want to be really clear on, is that leadership is not having direct reports. So at Balance, we have a mantra that you can lead from any seat. And I encourage everyone to step into leadership, and whatever that looks like for you. Leadership means so many different things to different people. And in preparing this, I really went back and thought, like, what is leadership for me? And for me, it's helping people with a way forward. So I think it was really important to go back and have a think about why I've gone down this path. And if you think back to earlier, I mentioned helping, those farmers achieve their goals. It was all about helping people with a way forward. And so no matter what sector, no matter what business I'm in, that for me is my core, I just love helping people with a way forward. So one of the questions that I was asked in preparation for this was, how did I know I was right for a leadership role? And honestly, I didn't. I could see that I enjoyed supporting other people, and I got a real kick out of seeing people win in whatever they were passionate about. But I guess the real catalyst for me was that I had people around me who said they saw me in leadership roles already. So I was mentoring, I was coaching inside and outside of Balance. And I think it really did take someone on the outside to be like, mate, you're already a leader. Like, why do you think you need to keep doing all these courses? So I guess one thing for me is that, if you surround yourself with these people who will be honest with you, you're never going to be right for a leadership role. You're probably already doing it, even if it's with your whānau or with people you work with. Leadership isn't having direct reports. And so if you take one thing out of this, that's what I'd love you to take away. I've mentioned already what leadership is for me. So I thought it'd be a good way to segue into what do I think makes a great leader and who I aspire to be. And for me, it's someone who leads from the heart. And I think especially as females, we tend to sort of put this side of ourselves away a little bit. And I actually had a really strong male mentor, and he was just like, Courtney, that's your strength. What are you doing? And I know I genuinely care about the people around me and my team and the business. And I think that's something we should all lean into a little bit more. It's a real strength for a lot of us. And authenticity is really important too. So there's a lot of people out there who you see and they're not being themselves, and I think it's really sad. So I think for me, if a great leader is someone who leads from the heart and is authentic, and if you have a high level of self-awareness, that is just the cherry on top. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things like specifically I'd want in a leader depending on the role, but I think just as a core, I have this little poster on my desk just to remind me, and it says that I want someone who sees me, hears me, and pushes me to be the best me. And I have that on my desk to remind me of what I stand for and who I want to show up for my team each day, because life will test you at times, and some days are hard, and having a clear why really helps me stay the path, and having it right there on my desk every day just keeps it front of mind on those really tough days. So getting back onto the journey, so after a couple of thanks but no thanks interviews and applications, I was successful in getting my current role as regional sales manager, which was my first role with direct reports. So I've been in this role for 4 years now, and honestly, I believe that the key to me getting this role was that I always asked for feedback. Like, I was annoying, so annoying. After interviews, I'd ask what they saw my strengths were and what was I missing in their eyes. And I would create all of these work-ons and put them in my development plan. I would talk to senior managers in the business and ask what they were looking for. And I just built this plan of, if I want to get here, this is what I need to do. And I still do that today. As I look for the next steps for me, I'm constantly like, okay, this would be a good thing to have in my repertoire. This is a skill I need to build on. And so I put it in my development plan. I think going back to my tribe, I've mentioned it a few times now. These are the people that I lean on, and they can lean on me. They give me honest and open feedback. And I think an important thing that I realized was my tribe is not necessarily my friends. Like some of them, some of my core group of friends are in my tribe, but not all of them, because what I need from people in my tribe is they tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. And you find a lot of the times your friends are like, yeah, no, just go for it. No, oh, that person's a dickhead, or, and it's actually not helpful because you stop reflecting. So I just make sure that I've still got my friends. Like, I don't just cut them because they tell me what I want to hear, but I just make sure that if I've got something really important going on, or a life decision, or I've had a really tough day that I need to just get some perspective on, I go to my tribe. So I would encourage you to think about who's in your tribe, and what's missing, who's missing, what skill set of these people in your tribe do you need to find? Have you got someone who's a really good coach who will help you uncover what's really going on for you in that moment? Have you got someone who's just painfully honest, who will really shake you to the core? So I would just have a wee think about who's in your tribe and what are you missing, and what else do you need in there. I think for me, the biggest thing is having people who are honest. I think that's been the biggest part for me. So the thing I was going to talk to you about was so I'd been in this, my first role with direct reports, and then the next chapter for me. So I'd been doing this role for a couple of years, and I went on a bit of a mission to find a program or a course that would really take those leadership concepts and take it to that next level. So I did a lot of research, and I was absolutely stoked to be selected for the Agri Women's Development Trust Escalator program. So it is an incredible program. It exposed me to a range of tools and approaches and roles and I guess directions that I hadn't understood to that level before. So there's a lot of courses out there, but this one just took some of those things to that really deep level. I learned so much on that program, and there are a huge range of programs that AWDT offer in New Zealand. You can just go onto their website, and there's day ones, there's month ones, 6 months, and the alumni are really approachable too. There'll be people, no matter where you are, who have been part of that. So the Escalator program helped me understand a lot about the skills and capabilities that I would need. But I think the most valuable thing that it taught me and helped me understand was what I bring to a room, like what does Courtney bring to a room, and it helped me uncover my values, my non-negotiables, what I stand for and what I won't tolerate. It also showed me that I could be a director if that's the path I wanted to go down. And I'd always wanted to, be a director. It's really like everything about it really lit up parts of me, but I just kind of thought like I wasn't, male, pale and stale, and it just wasn't going to be in a pathway for me. So this program showed me that I could do it if it's what I wanted to do. And from here, I built a plan of what I might need, timeframes, and I just got started straight away. And understanding what was truly involved was really powerful because it removed that fog of doubt that we all have. Well, I hope some of you don't have it, but I know a lot of us do. And where you think like, oh, that's too big for me, or that's not for me. And I think the lesson in that for me was, if something interests you, really go and learn about it, because you very quickly realize you're totally capable. Like, none of this is beyond us, but it just takes you to just really understand it. And then you're like, I can do that, I could learn that. And I think once you know that, you can start preparing yourself if there are any gaps. And so for me, that was a big part of just being like, I can do this. Like, there's nothing stopping me. So anyone who knows me knows that I'm a massive advocate for manifesting. And I know it sounds like a bit hippie-ish and a bit alternative, but essentially it's just visualizing. So, does visualizing and wishing for something make it happen? Of course not. But I honestly think the power in this is that if you know where you want to go or what you want, and then you make a plan of how you're going to get there, it makes you so much more aware and conscious of opportunities that align with getting to that goal. And I think that's what the power of manifesting is just like you're super aware of what you want. And so you're more likely to go and get it. And I think and having a plan and knowing where you want to go for that next step is, even if you don't get it, like say, we've all had, those days where you just don't get what you want, like that's just life. But it all leads you in an indirect way to where you needed to go anyway. So I just think it's quite cheesy, but honestly, a goal without a plan is just a wish. And it's so true, because if you want to achieve something and you just go, yeah, I want that, then you've literally just wished. So if you make a plan, it's a goal. So I guess going back to I've decided that I can do this. I want to get into governance, and so I had a couple of no thanks, but thanks again. Bit of a pattern there, and after getting all of these no's, I was absolutely shocked to get an interview with the Beef and Lamb Associate Director role. So this was in my plan. This was my number one. This was my dream associate role. And I thought that, oh, look, I'll just be that squeaky wheel. I'll put my name in the hat, and then they'll see my name every year for 3 years. And then they'll eventually be like, gosh, she's annoying. We'll just put her on so she stops applying. So I was absolutely blown away that I was offered the role on my first year. So what that sort of showed me was, I thought I'd be ready in maybe 2 or 3 years, but the board saw I was ready now. And I've learned that we're never going to be ready. No one is ever ready. The people that go into these things just back themselves and they get stuck in. And what you don't know, you'll learn as you go. And I think often that's been the best way of learning anyway. I feel like my biggest lesson in this last 2 years has been that if you wait until you feel ready and 100% comfortable, you're too late. And if you walk into a role and you're all over it from day one, it's probably not going to stretch you. And you will have all heard, that we don't go in our comfort zone. And I think that's probably a good mindset shift for us, especially as females, is we keep waiting till we're ready. And we just don't need to. Everyone learns in the job. Nothing changes as you progress in your career. So I think if you're asking yourself, am I right for a role? Just do your homework. Do your values align with that business? What parts of the role are you looking forward to? What will be a stretch for you? And where will the support come from? I think that the culture of a business or an organization is so important. And if you do your homework on that and the culture aligns with you and it's a place you're going to thrive, it's totally right for you. Doesn't matter if you don't have half the things in the advert. Just go for it and see where you land. I think if we talk about the associate director role at Beef and Lamb for a little bit, I think it's been an incredible opportunity. I have learnt so much, and I still have so much to take in. But I think there are more and more of these kinds of associate and observer roles coming up. Similarly, we're seeing more and more intern programs in different businesses. And I really think that it's so important to take those opportunities, because for me, doing this has been like putting all of the learnings I've learned over the last 10 years on my leadership journey, escalator program, observing boards, institute directors courses, all the courses I've done over the years. And it's just like the building blocks are finally making something. And it's like, oh, that's why I learned about that. And it's all sort of coming together. And I think that's been a really powerful experience for me, is just seeing all this come together and actually being able to enjoy it. The next thing I want to chat about is mentorship. I think if you're anything like me, you'll attend a fair few events and you often meet people, and you'll be at a conference and a speaker will say, reach out if you want to know more. And 99% of the time, I found they actually mean it. I think finding mentors shouldn't be hard. I think there's so much pressure and around the concept for both parties, whether you're a mentor or a mentee. And at the end of the day, for me, it's about genuinely connecting with people. And I think that's totally okay if it's on a one-off basis and you're just learning about their journey. You take what resonates from the conversation and you leave what doesn't. I think there is so much pressure that we need to be successful, we need to find a mentor and they need to mentor us for 10 years. I've had I wouldn't even know. Some of my best mentors, I've had one coffee with them and I learned so much from them. And I think it's just about doing that more, and also us replicating that with others as well. I think there's still this element, especially in the ag sector, that you need to gatekeep opportunities and lessons and connections to ensure you carry on a trajectory. And I just don't think that's the case. So I think it's about bringing people up with you, and it can be big or little. And I think it could be making a conscious effort to talk to people in the room. I know when I was going to my first conference and I just wanted to hide in the corner because I didn't know anyone, and someone came over to me and just introduced me to another group of people. And I think that's so important, is just look around that room and just keep introducing people to people you know. If you've made a connection with someone, introduce them to someone else. And if you just keep building these connections, that's where I think the real value is. Also, just remember that Meet Business Women have an incredible mentorship program. So you can talk to Abby or find someone in the committee, which is you can find on their website. Hey, Abby. Yeah. So they have an amazing mentorship program as well. So there's lots of opportunities out there if you're not comfortable just reaching out to someone. But I do encourage you to do that. It's actually really really humbling and flattering to those women as well. Like I found people are just really blown away that I'd love to have a coffee with them and learn about their journey. So I would encourage you to find mentorships in a more natural way. So we've spoken about networking to find mentors, but I think it's probably fair to say that if you're like me, networking isn't your favorite thing. So I've had a few questions about how I do it, because if you see me at an event, you might see like I talk to a few people, but actually what I do is I'm just really smart about it. So if possible, before I go to an event or a conference, I will look at the attendee list and I will have a look and see if there's anyone I really want to meet. Like, have I read something about them? Have I heard them talk before? Are they a connection through someone else? And I just set myself a goal of I'm going to introduce myself to 1, 2, 3 people at this event. And I'm an introverted extrovert, like I feel like most people are these days. So after that, I just go back to the comfort of my tribe if they're at the event with me, or I just go back to my room and unwind. I honestly find events like that, events and conferences, I find they really take it out of me. And so I just be really strategic about where I spend my time. I protect my well-being and I make sure I have that time to rest. So I think if that was advice I was given a couple of years ago, actually, when I told someone I hate networking, and I've just used it. Just find 3 people I want to introduce myself to. If I can do that in half an hour, awesome. If it takes me an hour, so be it. But I set myself that target and I find it a lot less overwhelming. The thing I was going to talk about, I'm almost finished, so thanks for hanging in there, was someone, when I started my leadership journey, I wish someone had said to me, don't say yes to everything. Things will just happen. There are so many courses, so many conferences, so many seminars. You name a topic and there's a business or organization that's running something. And it's about doing your homework. What are you wanting to achieve from that course? How does it align with your journey and your goals? Is your time better spent somewhere else? The same goes for opportunities. When opportunities come, they tend to come fast, and it's an annoying feature, but be really selective. What aligns with your goals and your journey? We tend to overcommit in the early stages, and some of us still are. But if there's a chance, there's not a chance it's all going to disappear, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, it's like you feel like you've got to grab onto everything right now because you're going to lose it, and it's just not the case. So I think the biggest takeaway is do what adds the most value to you and your goals, and do most of all what fills up your cup. That's what I think is the most important. Don't say yes to everything. Set some boundaries, and good stuff will happen if you put the work in. But yeah, that was a really quick whirlwind through that. Thank you for hanging in there. And now I think I'll hand back to Abby.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Courtney. There were some really good golden nuggets in there, and I made some notes. Some things that that really stuck with me is first you talked about honing in on your passion and the importance of really finding what you enjoy about work or just life in general. Also, something that resonated with me is that you pretty much talk a lot about continued learning. And just always kind of finding those opportunities to keep on growing. And then to help you keep learning, I know it's cheesy as well, but a goal without a plan is just a wish. I think you're right. It is so true. So just ensuring that you are making a plan to get where you want to go. And then you said we don't grow in our comfort zones. And I know for me, that is something that, it's so true, and it is, it's sometimes hard to do, but you have to do it, don't you? It'll just like you're doing in this session now, so that's awesome. And then lastly, being selective about your opportunities, which is something I haven't really thought about before. So thank you for that golden nugget. I'll just give a little bit more time for you to pop your questions in the chat. And I'll just kick off with one from myself. For sort of emerging leaders, sometimes it can be quite daunting to put yourself out there. What's your advice for building your own confidence?
I think that's a really good question. Honestly, it's like the worst answer ever, but I think it's time and life experience. Like, you get to a point where you realize that no one's going to believe in you if you don't believe in you, and you make a choice that you've got to put your own self-worth, you've got to put a value on that. And I think it all comes from working with lots of women. It comes back to a fact that a lot of us care what people think. We care way too much about what people think. And then it creates this constant cycle of self-doubt and overthinking. And it would be so great if everyone could just believe that you can only do your best, and not everyone's going to like you, and you literally can't do any more. And I honestly believe that as long as you stop and reflect on what went well and what you need to do different next time, and then put actions around that, like, your development's going to be crazy. Like, it'll be so good if you just reflect. And our problem is that we don't reflect. We generally, speaking about women, we generally don't reflect. We ruminate, and we just start spiraling on what's happened. And if you leave with one thing, it would be that like we're enough. You're enough. And sometimes it might just be that that's too far back in your brain. But if you focus on what has happened, that's a negative place to be. But if you focus on what's happened and what you're going to do different, that's a whole nother mindset. And I think that's what's really helped my confidence is I just don't care as much. I just don't care as much. I'm doing my best. I'm a good human, and I just don't care. There's going to be people who don't like me, and it's their loss.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I'll just quickly, a little bit of a follow-up question from that, and then I'll get to your question, Michelle. Thanks for popping that in there, and keep them coming. But you talked about being a people pleaser, and I'm totally guilty of that myself. But I just wondered if you had any advice, which might be that just don't care, but between balancing being a people pleaser and setting some boundaries.
Yeah, I think that's taken me a while, and honestly, I haven't nailed it. But you're right, it's about boundaries. And so for me, I know that I've only got so much capacity as a human to care about certain things. And so I'm really clear on what I care about. And I will not put extra time into anything that is outside of that. So like for me, it's, my partner, my whānau, and my team here at work. Anything outside of that, I have guilt-free no. I'll just say no. And so I guess that's what I mean in that I haven't nailed it, is that if anyone else in those other three categories asks something of me, I'll drop everything on there. So that's still a work on for me, but I've set those boundaries of anything outside of that. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm just one person. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And so Michelle, thanks for popping that in. Michelle has a question. What has been one of the major challenges in your career to date, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Oh, that's a great question. Major challenge, because I am a people pleaser, I think that major challenge for me was recently we went through a realignment here at Balance, and it involved major changes for the team, and the level of pressure, because I don't believe in stress. I think it's pressure and we turn it into stress. And the level of pressure was the absolute peak. I had a team that were really looking to me to guide them through this. And it was really hard to navigate because I didn't know what was going on that far ahead of them either. And I think the biggest things that helped me was my tribe. I will go on about that forever, but these people that I could just lean on and just look at things from a different view, because when you're under a really big challenge and a lot of pressure, that's when we tend to lose perspective. And so that's when I know what the triggers are for me, and I will go to my tribe. So I think that the going through that big period of change with the team would have been my biggest challenge to date.
Awesome, thanks. We have another question from Bex. Best advice you've ever received?
Oh, Bex, that's a great question. Honestly, there's been so much, and I have this big list, but I don't want to use foul language in this, but it's the best advice I ever got was that we only have, and it was about 5 years ago actually, and it was because I was a people pleaser, and it was this concept that you've only got a limited amount of F's to give, so choose those F's wisely. And I think that pops into my head almost daily. So yeah, that would, despite the language, that would be the best advice I ever got.
Awesome, thanks. And then we have another question from Katie. Katie says, fellow girl from the West Coast, what does a standard working week look like for you in regards to governance, personal life, and your career?
I haven't mastered it. This is not a work-life balance masterclass. For me, a normal week looks like I have 3 days out on the road with my team, so coaching them and being out in the field. I'll have at least a day of prepping for like board meetings and personal development, and then our on-farm business. I have another role as a safety specialist for an aviation business, so we've got that, and then the rest of the time is in the office. But yeah, it's my main, and it goes back to prioritizing, but my main focus is always those days on the road with the team, because that's what brings me the most joy and is the most valuable use of my time, and then I fit everything else around it.
Awesome, you are definitely busy. So feel free to keep popping questions in the chat, but I did have another one. You talk a lot about your tribe. I just wondered if you had any tips for finding your tribe.
Yeah, that's a great question. Once I mapped out my tribe, and the way I did it was I thought about a situation like for example, this realignment we've just gone through at work. Who would be the people I would talk to, and what do I need? And from there, I saw where the gaps were, and I really need, like, for example, I really needed some help when I initially did this around financial acumen. That's never been something I've been really strong in. And so I sort of looked around people I had connections with, even like I'd met once at a conference, like not people really close. And I approached them. So one was a GM in a business. He was he was the CFO. And I was just open with him and said, like, this is an area I want to develop. Would you be interested? And then we just organically formed a connection by genuinely being interested in each other. And so he's been a really good support for me in the past. Whenever I had something, financially based, I wanted some, an ear or some coaching around. So I honestly think there's nothing wrong with just reaching out to someone and starting. Like, you don't need to go up to them and be like, oh, I want you in my tribe. Some people might like that, I don't know. But I think it's more around building a genuine connection with someone. And there might be people already in your circle that you just haven't thought of as that in that way of being part of your tribe.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Courtney. I'll give it a few more seconds there we go. Michelle's just dropped another question in the chat. Have you experienced a time in your career when management didn't believe in training or development, and how did you work through that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes, so one of my maybe my second manager, so I would have been in my early 20s. He was one of the managers who thought I was great where I was. Like, I saw him about a month ago and he called me sweetheart, and I was like, that's right. But he was one of those, and what I did was I just went around him. I found other people in this business that were really passionate about supporting development, and I went around him. At the time, there wasn't anything that really piqued my interest, so I went on an external program. It was like a 2-day course just to see if I was interested. And then once I had done that, I created I guess we call it like a bring it back to balance. And so I said, like, look, if I keep doing this kind of thing, this is what I can bring back to our team and the business. And that allowed him to see the value in supporting me to do those things going forward. But I had to go around him in order to do that initially. But in the end, he was on board. He couldn't see the value to the rest of the team of me doing that kind of thing.
Awesome, thank you. I'll give it another second just in case there are any more, but just a couple more seconds.
While people are thinking, just a thought. And I know people always say it, but if anyone ever does want to chat or anything, just flick me a message on LinkedIn or anything. Like, when people say it, they mean it. So yeah, if you ever do even just want a quick answer or want to have a chat about something in particular, just reach out. I mean it.
Awesome, thank you, Courtney. I think we'll wrap it up there. That has been really awesome, and thank you so much for taking the time to do this. It's great to have these kinds of different sessions that focuses on, I guess those people kind of working towards leadership roles. So it's been really great having that chat. And yeah, thanks again for your time. Thanks to everyone for joining us today. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to get in touch. You can go via Meet Businesswomen, the website, our info email address, or feel free to reach out to Courtney or I directly. And if you have any feedback on masterclasses like this, or have any ideas or want to do one, I'm super keen and open to suggestions. So thank you so much. We'll wrap it up there. Take care and all the best.
Thanks, guys.